Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It started with a lie so bold, it made me blink twice. You've been watching her, Veronica said, her voice echoing slightly off the glass walls. Lena, don't insult both of us by denying it. I shifted in my seat. Excuse me. Veronica leaned forward across the conference table, lips curved just enough to pass for a smile, though there was nothing soft about it. My sister. You think I haven't noticed the way your eyes follow her whenever she's in the room? That's not true, I said, slow, calm, but already feeling my pulse climb. You're imagining something that isn't there. She laughed. Sharp, cold. Of course you'd say that. But I'm not stupid, Tom. I know men like you. Always looking for the next soft thing to land on once the current one's inconvenient. You're unbelievable, I muttered. She's your sister. I've never looked at Lena that way. Never. Right? That's why your hands always find something else to do whenever she's near. You can't even be normal around her. It's pathetic. She crossed her arms, flicking her gaze toward her lawyer, who sat silent, stone-faced, probably used to this kind of warfare. I leaned forward. You think this is about Lena? You're using her as a shield because you can't just admit you're done with me and want the easiest payout. Veronica's expression didn't budge. I am done with you. I'm done wasting my time with a man who doesn't know what he wants. But I'm not walking away empty-handed. She pushed a stack of papers across the table. Sign it. 50/50ths. Or I go to court with the infidelity clause. And trust me, Tom, I'll make sure it sticks. There's nothing to stick, I snapped. No affair, no evidence, because it never happened. Her voice dropped low, controlled. You don't need to cheat in bed to betray a marriage. Emotional disloyalty is just as toxic. And the judge? He'll agree with me. Especially when I show him the messages Lena sent you. I froze. What messages? Her lips twitched. Exactly. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she was talking about. But I knew Veronica. She didn't need truth. She just needed narrative. You'd really drag Lena into this? I said quietly. You'd tear her down to get at me? Veronica sat back, smoothing her silk blouse like she was brushing dust off her conscience. She's a big girl. She'll recover. You? You're the one about to lose everything. I stared at her. This woman I'd once loved, who now sat across from me like a strategist preparing for war, not a wife ending a marriage. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice raw despite how hard I tried to contain it. What happened to just being honest? I'm being honest, she said, eyes cold as polished steel. I want out, and I want what I'm owed. And you think hurting me in the process is just a bonus? She smiled for real this time. No, Tom, hurting you is the point. That's when I knew. Arguing wouldn't get me anything but more wounds. She had already rewritten the story in her head, and I wasn't the main character anymore. I was the villain, the disposable one. I grabbed the pen. You're signing it? She said, caught off guard. I nodded once. You want your war? I'm not giving it to you. Take your 50%. Take your story. You're not even going to fight? She said, voice rising a half octave. No, I said, because fighting would mean I still wanted you. The silence that followed was louder than any yelling we'd done in the past year. I pushed the signed papers toward her, stood up slowly, and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard her say, just loud enough for it to reach me, you'll regret this, Tom. I paused at the threshold, hand on the doorframe. I didn't turn around. I already do. And with that, I left the room, left her world. And somewhere deep inside, I knew something in me had been stolen, not just by her, but by my silence. Because I hadn't fought. Not yet. The silence in my apartment was loud. Not just quiet loud. That kind of silence that makes the walls feel like they're pressing in a little. The kind that echoes your every movement, your every thought. Half the shelves were empty, the furniture too evenly spaced, like it had been arranged by someone who never meant to stay long. The bed I used to share now felt like it belonged in a hotel room. Tidy, cold, forgotten by love. I sank into the only real piece of comfort I owned, the frayed arm of an old leather chair we'd bought when we first moved to Dallas. Veronica had called it ugly chic. I had called it non-negotiable. It was the only thing that still smelled like me. A takeout box balanced on my knee, untouched. My phone buzzed once on the kitchen counter, but I didn't move. Didn't care. Probably one of the guys from work checking in. They knew I'd moved out. They just didn't know what I'd lost. My eyes drifted to a small frame still sitting on the shelf. Veronica at our wedding. That classic grin. White dress. And Lena, just off to the side, holding the bouquet before the toss. Her expression unreadable. Lena. Her name sat heavy in my mind. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes, and suddenly I was 21 again. Senior year. Late spring. College campus glowing with that golden kind of sunlight that made everything feel possible. I was sitting on the quad, sketching floor plans in a tattered notebook. That's how I was, always thinking about buildings. Building things. Building something. And they walked by. Veronica first, loud, laughing, fiery red lipstick, dragging energy behind her like a wake. Lena followed a few steps back, hair tucked behind one ear, a soft smile that somehow saw straight through people. They were opposites, and I was split. Veronica made me feel electric, like I had to sprint just to keep up. Her energy pulled me out of my head, made me chase ambition, bigger dreams, riskier plans. I felt sharper around her, more alive, more like the man I thought I needed to be. But Lena was different. She listened, really listened. I still remember her leaning on the railing outside the art studio while I talked about modular spaces, nodding, asking questions no one else did. I'd felt a kind of peace around her that I didn't know how to explain. I remember once, late after a campus event, the three of us had walked to the coffee shop on Fifth. Veronica was buzzing about starting a podcast. I was distracted, tired. And Lena? She'd quietly slid her scarf off her neck and handed it to me when she noticed I was shivering. She hadn't said a word, just smiled. That was Lena. And I had known. I knew back then who really saw me. But I also knew Veronica was the path to something fast, something impressive. She was bold, brilliant, and ruthless with her goals. I told myself I needed that. I needed her momentum. So I chased the storm, married it. And now here I was, sitting alone in a stripped apartment, wondering if I'd built my life on top of a sandcastle. I opened my eyes again. The photo frame was still there. I stood, picked it up, stared at Veronica's smile. Not the woman in the glass-walled office today. Not the one who'd leaned across a polished table and accused me of looking at her sister. This was the earlier version, the one I'd chosen, who hadn't yet been sharpened into someone cold enough to weaponize family. But maybe she was always headed that way. And maybe I had too. Maybe I chose the woman who looked like success because I didn't believe I deserved the one who felt like home. The air felt colder now. I dropped the photo into a drawer and shut it away. Out of sight. Still too much in mind. The rain started just after 7. Light at first, then heavier, steady against the windows like fingers drumming out an impatient rhythm. I hadn't turned the lights on yet. The apartment was dim, soaked in that blue-gray glow you get right before night truly settles in. I was on the couch, one arm draped over my eyes, trying not to think too hard. Which meant, of course, I was thinking harder than ever. Then came the knock. Not loud. Just there. 3 soft raps. I sat up, heart thudding once for reasons I couldn't explain. Another knock. I walked to the door, pulled it open, and there she was. Lena. Damp hair clinging to her shoulders, a bottle of red cradled in her arms. Her smile both uncertain and familiar. Hey, she said. I blinked. Hey. I know it's random. I was in the area and... She trailed off, looking past me like she wasn't sure if she should be here. Come in, I said before she could talk herself out of it. She stepped in slowly, careful not to drip water all over the floor. I should have texted. I just didn't want to give you a chance to say no. I gave a short, dry laugh. You brought wine. No one says no to wine. I figured you'd need it, she said, setting the bottle on the kitchen counter. Well, maybe we need it. We ended up at the small kitchen table. 2 mismatched glasses. The bottle half empty. Rain still tapping softly against the windows like a metronome keeping time. She swirled her wine, watching it like it held answers. I didn't expect to see you at the lawyer's office, she said finally. I exhaled through my nose. Didn't expect to be there. Lena nodded slowly, then looked up, her eyes meeting mine. Veronica said some things. Things I didn't believe. I just wanted you to hear that from me. Like what? She hesitated. That I came between you two. That I tried to. It's not true. You know that, right? I nodded, steady. I know. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. I don't know what she told you, but I haven't spoken to her in days. She blocked me on everything. Sent some nasty messages. Said I was out of line for even replying to you. I stared at the table, jaw tight. Sounds like her. I never meant to cause trouble, Tom, she said softly. I stayed away because I thought I was helping. I looked up again. Lena, if I ever made you feel like I didn't value you back then, during college, I'm sorry. You were never the backup plan. I just didn't know how to choose calm over fire. That's on me. She smiled gently, eyes glassy. I don't blame you. You chose what made sense at the time. You wanted to build something big. I did. I chuckled bitterly. Turns out I built it on a fault line. That made her laugh, really laugh. The kind that came from the chest, unpolished and real. God, I hadn't heard that sound in years. I hadn't even realized how much I missed it. You always were terrible at metaphors, she said, sipping her wine. I stand by my architectural ones. We both laughed then, the sound stretching out and warming the walls. Something shifted. Not loudly, just gently. She looked at me, softer now. I'm glad you're okay. I nodded. Not okay, but better now. The space between us felt smaller than it had 10 minutes ago, like something unspoken was beginning to fill it. Not romantic. Not yet. Just real. She stayed for another hour. We talked about stupid college things, professors we hated, concerts we snuck into, old notebooks she'd saved. For a moment, I forgot about lawyers, signatures, and accusations. I forgot the cold. I just remembered what it felt like to not be performing. And when she left, coat zipped, umbrella overhead, I watched her walk out into the rain. The apartment felt different after she was gone. Still quiet, but no longer hollow. It was a Thursday, quiet, forgettable. I had just gotten home from work, keys tossed on the counter, shirt half untucked, when my phone lit up with her name. Veronica. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. Just her name alone pulled tension into my shoulders like someone yanking on a rope. I answered. Tom, she said. No greeting. No pause. Veronica. Was she there? My back straightened. What? Don't play stupid, she snapped. Lena. Was she at your apartment? I leaned against the counter, rubbing a hand down my face. Why are you asking me that? There was a pause, sharp and loaded. Because I know she was. I saw the traffic ping near your place. She turned off her location after, but not before I caught it. You're tracking her now? I asked, incredulous. I'm protecting her. She doesn't know what she's doing. I laughed once, bitter. She's a grown woman. She knows exactly what she's doing. Don't be smug, Tom, she hissed. You think because we're divorced you can just do whatever you want? I think exactly that, I said, voice low. That's what divorce is. Another pause. I could almost hear her jaw tighten. You don't get to drag my sister into your rebound spiral. She came over. We talked. That's it. Of course you talked, she said mockingly. That's your move. You listen, you nod, you play the understanding victim. You're always performing. And you're always rewriting the script to suit your version of reality. Don't patronize me. Then don't call me. I shot back. You wanted me gone. You wanted control. You got both. You think this makes you free? She said, suddenly quieter, colder. She won't come back, Tom. That stopped me. What? You heard me. Did you say something to her? A long silence. Lena knows what loyalty looks like. She won't choose you. That hit like a punch to the gut, not because it was true, but because she wanted it to be. I'm not in a competition with you, Veronica, I said slowly. That's the difference. You burn people when they stop orbiting you. I'm done circling. She scoffed, like my words were just noise. You think you're the victim here. But you're not. You're just weak. You always were. Maybe, I said. But at least I'm not scared of people who see through me. There was no reply. Just the sound of her breathing, controlled, angry, calculating. Then the click of the line going dead. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the phone, heart pounding, not from fear. From clarity. This wasn't about Lena visiting me. It wasn't about me at all. It was about Veronica realizing, for the first time, there was a part of her life she couldn't manipulate anymore. And it terrified her. The drive to Lena's place felt longer than usual. Rain smeared across the windshield in thin streaks, the kind that made traffic lights glow like melted glass. I didn't call ahead. I didn't want to give her a chance to tell me not to come. My chest was tight the whole way. When I pulled up outside her townhouse, her porch light was already on, like she knew I'd be coming anyway. She opened the door before I could even knock. Her eyes were red. Tom, she whispered. Her voice barely held together. You shouldn't be here. I had to see you. She stood there, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Then she stepped back without a word, letting me in. The place was warm, smelled faintly of chamomile, and something baking that had long since cooled. The living room was small, but lived in. Books on the end table, a folded blanket on the arm of the couch. It felt nothing like Veronica's cold precision. It felt safe. I turned to face her, but she was already wiping at her eyes. She called me, Lena said, before I could even speak. Right after she called you, I guess. What did she say? She said. Her voice cracked, and she turned away, walking toward the kitchen just to keep from falling apart. She said I was pathetic, that I was ruining lives, that I'd always been jealous of her, and now I was proving it. I followed her in, slow, careful. You didn't ruin anything, Lena. You didn't cause our divorce. She thinks I did. And maybe, she turned, eyes glistening, maybe she believes it because deep down I wonder if I did too. Don't, I said gently. Don't do that. I saw how she looked at me, Tom. Like I was nothing. Like I was something she had to scrape off her shoe. And I let her say those things. I didn't even defend myself. I just listened. She's manipulating you, I said. Because that's what she does when she feels power slipping. Lena hugged her arms around herself. She told me to block you. That if I had any sense of decency, I'd never speak to you again. And did you? No, she said. But I almost did. I stepped closer, my voice calm. Lena, this marriage died a long time ago. Long before you showed up on my doorstep with that bottle of wine. You didn't break it. You just happened to walk through the ruins. She stared at me like she didn't quite believe it yet. But she wanted to. I sat down at her kitchen table. Do you trust me? She hesitated. Then finally, yes. I nodded. Then trust this. Veronica doesn't get to decide what happens next. Not for me. Not for you. Lena lowered herself into the seat across from me. Her shoulders were still trembling, but there was something different in her eyes now. Not fear. Not guilt. Just exhaustion. And the faintest flicker of hope. She whispered, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. You're doing your best, I said. And you're not alone in this. Her lips parted, like she wanted to say more, but the words weren't ready yet. So we sat there, quiet. Not awkward. Not empty. Just quiet. In a way that made space for the truth. It was nearly midnight. I couldn't sleep, not really. I'd left Lena's place hours earlier, but her words, her eyes, her pain still clung to me like smoke on clothes. I sat on the edge of my bed, thumb lazily flicking through my phone, trying to shut my brain off. News, weather, photos of people smiling through filters and filters pretending to be real life. And then, there it was. A photo I didn't expect to see. Veronica, dressed in black, arm draped around a man I didn't recognize. He had the smug, curated look of someone who paid for personal training and knew which angles made him look just rugged enough. His hand rested too comfortably at her waist. They were in some upscale rooftop bar. Lit wine glasses. Twinkling lights behind them. Her smile was real, or at least, convincing enough for anyone who didn't know better. The caption? 1 year today. With a heart emoji. I froze. I stared at that caption so long the screen started to dim. 1 year. A year. From today? I checked the date. Did the math. That meant, while we were still married. While I was in that house, fixing the sink, making her coffee, pretending we were just in a rough patch. She was already with someone else. Not a flirtation. Not a fling. A relationship. I set the phone down, slowly, as a new kind of silence filled the room. It wasn't confusion or heartbreak. It was clarity. She hadn't just used me. She'd cheated. Coldly. Quietly. While building a plan to make me look like the guilty one. I opened the drawer in the nightstand and pulled out the original prenup, signed 6 years ago. Back when I still thought things like that were just formalities. Right there in black and white, the infidelity clause. If either party was found to have committed adultery during the marriage, the guilty party forfeited all claims to shared assets. Everything. She had threatened me with it. Weaponized it. Now, it was my turn. The next morning, I sat across from my lawyer, Richard Epps, a guy with kind eyes and a shark's instinct. He flipped through the prenup, nodding slowly. She cheated, I said, sliding my phone across the desk. The photo glowed under his office lights. He looked down, arched a brow. You're certain the timeline overlaps? Caption says 1 year. That's 10 months before she filed. We were still married. Living together. Any other evidence? Not yet. But this is public. I'm betting there's more. Richard leaned back. You realize what this means? I nodded. It means she played me. And now we play back. He tapped his pen against the clause. We can reopen the settlement, but we'll need more than a caption. I want a polygraph. It won't be admissible in court, but it'll rattle her. Bad. I narrowed my eyes. She won't take it. She doesn't have to. We just need her to react. He smiled, that slow, confident kind that let me know things were already in motion. I'll draft the request today, he said. Let's see how strong that mask really is. I stood, shoulders a little straighter than they'd been in weeks. Thanks, Richard. Don't thank me yet, he said, already tapping out an email. This is just the opening move. As I stepped back out into the brisk December air, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt ready. If you're enjoying the story, please hit the like button. 3 days. That's how long it took for the cracks to show. I hadn't heard a word from her since I'd filed the formal request through Richard's office. Just silence. No dramatic calls. No texts. No threats disguised as concern. Until tonight. I was sitting on my balcony, the winter air sharp against my skin, when my phone lit up in my palm. Veronica. Again. I let it ring twice before I answered. Tom, she said immediately. No edge, no preamble, just my name, wrapped in tension. Her voice sounded tight, controlled on the surface, but beneath it, I heard the tremble she was trying to hide. I heard from my lawyer, she continued. You're requesting a polygraph. That's right. A pause. Not the dramatic kind. This one was genuine. The kind that comes when someone doesn't know what to say next. You can't be serious, she finally said. I've never been more serious in my life. Tom, she said again, softer now. Almost fragile. A lie detector? What are you even trying to prove? I'm not trying to prove anything, I replied. You already did that for me when you posted a photo with the man you've apparently been with for a year. That's not, she started, but stopped herself. You don't understand what you're doing. If this goes public, I'm not doing it for publicity, Veronica, I cut in. This isn't a stunt. This is truth. Cold. Quiet. Legal. Her breathing hitched. It was faint, but I heard it. You're blowing up both our lives, she said. No. You already did that, I replied calmly. I just stopped pretending the fire wasn't there. Another silence. And this time it was long. I could practically hear her scrambling, searching for something that would work on me. Some tone, some phrase, some carefully chosen words that used to make me fold. But those days were gone. I don't want to go through this, she finally said. I didn't want to go through a divorce built on manipulation, I answered. Then why didn't you fight me? She snapped suddenly, the panic cracking into anger. Why didn't you say something before signing the papers? Because you had already made your move, I said. You staged the scene, played the role, controlled the narrative. Arguing with you would have only added applause to your performance. I could almost hear her blink. The silence on her end was full of swallowed pride. She tried again, softer, calculated. Tom, if you walk this road, it won't end clean. You'll hurt people. You'll hurt me. There it was. The old card. Guilt. I didn't blink. You stepped into my life with lies, Veronica, I said slowly. Now I'm walking into yours with the truth. That's not cruelty. That's balance. Nothing. No breath. No click. Just silence. And in that silence, I heard everything I needed. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't confused. She was cornered. This doesn't have to go to court, she said finally, voice quiet. We could talk. Just you and me. We're past that, I said. And you know it. A few seconds passed. Then the line went dead. I sat back in the chair, letting the cold air settle into my lungs. She had always spoken with certainty. But this time, she hung up without it. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt her control slipping. The air in the park was still. Cold, but still. Street lamps buzzed overhead, casting long shadows across the path. I walked without direction, hands in my coat pockets, collar turned up against the wind, just moving, trying to clear my mind. But it followed me. Every thought, every fragment of the last few days walked beside me like ghosts that wouldn't let go. Veronica's voice still echoed in my ears. That subtle shift from panic to pressure, the way she always recalibrated mid-conversation, like she could taste losing control and was scrambling to snatch it back. But the part that lingered the most? Lena. I slowed near a bench and sat down, elbows on my knees, staring out at the pond. The water was still. No ripples. Like it was waiting. Why had Veronica come after her? It made no sense. She had the divorce. She got the silence she wanted from me. She'd already moved on. A year ago, if that photo was telling the truth. So why go after the one person who hadn't done anything except show up with a bottle of wine and a soft smile? Because Veronica couldn't stand to lose without naming someone else the villain. And Lena? Lena was too easy to blame. Too close. Too decent. I thought about the way her hands trembled when she told me what Veronica had said. The guilt she wore like it was her fault just for existing in my orbit. She had every chance to walk away, to believe the lies, to leave me to figure this all out alone. But she didn't. She let me in. And Veronica couldn't stand that. Because deep down, I think she knew Lena had something she never did. Not ambition, not strategy, not power, but peace. The kind of peace you can't manufacture with money or threats. The kind that comes from knowing who you are, even when the world tries to twist the mirror. Veronica used to pride herself on being unpredictable. She wore it like perfume. She said people feared chaos because they couldn't control it, and that made it the most powerful tool in any relationship. But control doesn't equal love, and fear doesn't equal loyalty. I took a slow breath and let it fog in front of me. I had let her shape too many years of my life. Bend them, redirect them, silence them. I went along with it for the sake of image, of convenience, of not turning every disagreement into a war zone. But now the silence felt like strength. I stood and kept walking, one foot in front of the other, not toward anything specific, just forward. That old version of me, the one who used to measure every word, who flinched every time her tone shifted, that man had left the building weeks ago. Now, I moved with a kind of calm I hadn't felt in years. No plans to hurt her. No need to match her tactics. Just the quiet, steady rhythm of my own steps. She didn't get to rewrite this chapter. Not anymore. I wasn't looking back. And if Lena was still somewhere ahead in all this, if she hadn't been driven too far away, then maybe, for once, I could choose something that didn't require losing myself. I reached the edge of the park, paused, looked up at the sky. It was cloudy, but I could feel the stars behind it. Just waiting. Courtrooms aren't made for comfort. Hard benches, buzzing lights, the slow grind of time stretching out between each gavel and sigh. They aren't meant to feel personal, but everything about this day did. Veronica sat across the aisle from me, wrapped in a navy blazer, legs crossed, hands clasped too tightly in her lap. Her heel tapped out a fast, nervous rhythm on the tile floor. It was the first time I'd ever seen her visibly unsettled in public. Not flustered, not calculating, just cracking. The bailiff called order. Judge Latham entered, tall, sharp-jawed, the kind of presence that silenced the room before he even opened his mouth. Richard leaned over to me, whispered, "Just stay quiet. Let the truth work for you." I nodded once. Veronica glanced back at me. Our eyes locked for the briefest second. Her expression wasn't angry or arrogant this time. It was scared. The hearing began. Formalities. Statements. Then the judge turned to Richard. "You've submitted a motion to reopen the asset division under Section B of the prenuptial agreement?" "Yes, Your Honor," Richard replied, steady as ever. "Under grounds of infidelity. We have evidence supporting a year-long extramarital relationship during the marriage, as well as voluntary submission to a polygraph, which confirms the same." Veronica's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, the test results are not admissible." "I'm aware," the judge interrupted. "But I will consider the context of the timeline and any corroborating evidence." Richard clicked a remote. The screen lit up behind us. Veronica's photo with the man from her feed filled the screen, dated, time-stamped, captioned. Then another photo, another caption, another date, each one landing like a hammer blow. Then the polygraph report. Dry, clinical, but bold-faced across the top. Inconclusive denial. Indications of deception. Veronica shifted in her seat. Her lawyer leaned over, whispering frantically, but she just stared at the screen, frozen. Richard continued. "We also have matching GPS data and metadata from the phone of the respondent that cross-verify her presence at the same locations as Mr. Davis, her alleged partner, on multiple nights over the span of the marriage." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Miss Rowe," he said, addressing Veronica, "do you contest the existence of this relationship during the marriage?" She hesitated. Everyone waited. Then, quietly, barely audible, she said no. A hush fell across the room. The judge didn't react. He simply lowered his gaze to the paperwork, flipped a page, and nodded. Then, based on the terms outlined in the prenuptial agreement and the verified breach of marital fidelity, I hereby reinstate full enforcement of Clause 8C. All previously divided marital assets shall be transferred in full to the petitioner, Mr. Thomas Wakefield. A gasp from somewhere behind me. A muttered curse from Veronica's lawyer. But Veronica didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just sat there, staring down at her lap. The judge continued. This concludes our hearing. Final settlement transfer will be processed within 30 business days. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck once. And then, Veronica broke. She covered her face, shoulders shaking as the first sob ripped through her composure. Her voice cracked, not loud, not dramatic, just raw. I didn't move. I didn't gloat. I just watched her fall apart in the very space where she once held all the cards. She had walked into that courtroom to protect an empire of lies. But the truth doesn't flinch. It doesn't argue. It just waits. And today, it finally spoke. I stood as the room emptied, adjusted my coat, and walked past her without a word. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because for the first time in years, I didn't know her anything. Not even the comfort of my attention. The courthouse steps echoed beneath my shoes, sharp, steady. The winter air bit at my cheeks, but I didn't rush. After everything that had unfolded inside, I wasn't going to run from the ending. I made it to the far end of the parking lot before I heard her voice behind me. Tom, wait. I stopped. For a moment, I just stared ahead, watching steam curl from a manhole nearby, cars pulling out one by one. Then I turned. She was walking fast, heels clicking against the pavement, one hand gripping the strap of her designer purse like it was armor. Her eyes were rimmed in red, makeup barely holding on. I need to ask you something, she said, breath visible in the cold. Why? Why what? Her lips parted. She looked frustrated. Like even now, she couldn't believe she didn't already have the upper hand. Why did you do that in front of everyone? Why humiliate me like that? You could have handled this quietly. I blinked, then took a step closer. Handled this quietly? I repeated. Like how you handled a secret year-long relationship behind my back while building a case to bury me? That's not the same. It's exactly the same. She looked down for a moment, then back at me, eyes glossy. I didn't think you'd go that far. No, you didn't think I'd stand up. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. So I kept going. You made choices, Veronica. Cold ones. You tore me down in private, then smiled for the world. You turned your sister into a weapon. You made me feel like I was crazy for seeing the cracks. And the worst part? You expected me to thank you for the way you left. I didn't know what I was doing, she said quietly. Yes, you did. That silence again. The one where truth sits between two people like a wall that can't be climbed. She reached out, fingers barely lifting. Tom, but I stepped back. No. One word. Firm. Final. I didn't fight you in that office. I didn't throw blame when you were rewriting our history. But I'm not carrying your guilt. That belongs to you. Her hand dropped. I turned around and walked away. Not fast. Not angry. Just done. And this time, she didn't follow. The days had gotten colder, but the park still held that late autumn quiet. Bare trees, slow wind, and the sound of life moving at a gentler pace. I sat on a bench beneath a rusted lamppost, coffee in hand, watching people walk their dogs, bundled in scarves and knit hats. Then I saw her. Lena. She approached without hurry, like we weren't meeting for the first time in weeks, just picking up a conversation we'd paused mid-sentence. She wore a long brown coat and boots dusted in dry leaves, and when she sat down beside me, she didn't say anything at first. Neither did I. We just looked out over the small lake as the wind stirred the surface into soft ripples. Finally, she spoke. You okay? I nodded. Getting there. A faint smile tugged at her lips. I saw the news. About the ruling. I didn't expect it to feel so quiet after, I said. Like something I'd waited for just came and went. That's what the truth does, she said gently. It doesn't yell. It just stands there. Unshakable. We sat in that truth for a moment. Then she turned toward me. Veronica called me. My jaw tightened. What did she say? She said I ruined everything. That you were never like this before me. But I think she was just trying to rewrite the ending in her head. I'm sorry she dragged you into all of it. Lena shook her head. No, you're not responsible for her story. And neither am I. Her words sat heavy and freeing. I used to think I chose Veronica because she made me feel driven, I said, staring out across the lake. But the truth is, I chose her because she made me feel like I had something to prove. Like being with her made me more than I was. And now I know better. Lena looked at me. Really looked. I never blamed you, she said softly. Not back then. Not now. I just wondered what we might have been if you'd chosen peace over noise. I smiled. So did I. She reached for my hand. Slow, natural. Our fingers met in the middle of the bench, not like a declaration, but like a shared understanding. And that was enough. No pressure. No promises. Just two people sitting in the aftermath of something broken, choosing, finally, not to carry the weight of someone else's wreckage. I looked over at her, feeling more certain than I had in years. This time, I wouldn't chase the storm. This time, I'd stay where it was quiet. And true, that was the end of my story. But before you go, there's something I keep thinking about. Lena stayed silent for a long time, even when Veronica tore her down behind closed doors. She thought walking away was the most respectful choice. Tell me in the comments, did she do the right thing? Or should she have stood up for herself sooner? If you felt something from this story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. There's more to come.